Joining me now from Musings of an Old Sports Writer, BobKravitz.com, is the one and only Bob Kravitz. Glad to have you making your debut on my show today, Bob. How you doing?
It's pretty darned exciting. Maybe
Yeah,
the highlight of my day.
Maybe, and that would be saying something, wouldn't it? So I wanted to have you on today specifically because I knew I was going to have to talk about this, and I thought who would be the best person to kind of just pick their brain a little bit about what all went down, maybe just hear your opinions on it. But the whole Tyreek Hill situation that took place over this past weekend, that obviously people politicize it, people do whatever they want with it, and obviously it was a big stir, before week one of the NFL. And in my opinion, I feel like both parties in their own horrible ways handled everything terribly, whether it be Tyreek Hill himself or the police officers involved. And I guess I'll just hand it over to you. I just kind of want to hear your initial thoughts on really what happened with him getting pulled over in Miami on Sunday.
Well, you're right. It does get politicized. Everything is a Rorschach test these days. You see what you want to see. You hear what you want to hear. It's just like the debate on Tuesday night. I talked to friend. To me, it was like a one-sided debate. I thought Kamala wiped the floor with him. But you talk to your Trump friends, and they think Trump did exceedingly well. So I think for people with a certain political, cultural mindset, this was all on Tyreek Hill. He didn't respond the way the police officer wanted him to respond. I'm with you. I think both sides handled it very sloppily. I thought Tyreek could have rolled his window down and been more accommodating to the police. I know that when I've been stopped for speeding, I'm always on my best behavior. I can't imagine what it would be like for a young black man driving a Lamborghini or whatever he was driving, which is what I drive as well. People don't know that, but
do you know?
No, okay. Honda Civic actually, but no, it was bad form by both sides. I think this will probably, instead of turning into some civil rights thing or turning Tyreek Hill into some sort of martyr, which he is not. I think we need to chill out and understand that both sides misstepped here, and it rose to a level it never needed to.
Yeah, and on you already mentioned what Tyreek Hill did. He could have been more compliant and that type of stuff. But the police officer's job, whenever you're in a highly contentious situation like this, I feel like is to be more of a de-escalator. And instead of finding a way to de-escalate the situation, they almost let their emotions and frustrations get the best of them, which that can happen, but you still have to be aware of yourself and your situation and not overreact the way in which they did to create this situation. And thankfully, they had their body cams on, because if you remember the Scotty Scheffler situation from a few months back, that was part of the problem with that investigation. The officer didn't have their body cam on.
Right.
And so there's so many things that I guess went right, but also went very wrong. And it's a shame that we still see situations like this. And I know not everybody's perfect, but to see it play out the way that it did, it unfortunately caused even more of a divide than we already have right now going on, whether it be sports or politics, whatever it may be.
Yeah, I've never been pulled over for driving while Jewish. So I mean, I can't I can't understand what it's like. I've talked with my friend Stephen Holder, who's literally in Miami when he lived down there, had guns pulled on him while he was traveling with his family. I mean, I don't know what it's like for a black man in America in any circumstance. I'm sure that Tyreek felt a certain dread and fear that maybe I wouldn't feel. Maybe he was more defensive.
Or maybe that it was a targeted pullover. I mean, maybe that wasn't what it was, but he could have been thinking about in that way, shape, or form.
Right. I mean, I guess he was going 60 and a 35 or something, which is not good. But, it wasn't like he was racing or anything. I just thought it escalated in a way it didn't need to escalate. And he's probably right that if he wasn't Tyreek Hill, that could have been a very, very serious situation.
Yeah, but there have been things in the past with him specifically, like with
Yes.
the allegations with. I don't know if it was something to do with his wife or his former partner, whoever it may have been, where because he's Tyreek Hill, he also kind of got off on more so of the easy side of things. So I guess there's two
It's
sides
a
of both
double-edged
spectrums when
sword.
it comes to.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. Look, let's not turn Tyreek Hill into some sort of civil rights martyr. Okay, this is not John L. Lewis here. This is a guy who's got his own issues, who was accused of breaking his son's arm when the kid was 3 years old. I mean, this is not necessarily a nice person. That said, what he was doing, driving 60 in a 35 or whatever the zone was, um, didn't reach that level, obviously, and I just thought it was handled poorly by both sides.
Yeah. And of course, if this was handled the correct way, you wouldn't hear about that in the news, unfortunately. It's just the way that things go. But that's the way you still want things to play out. Hopefully, in the future, we don't see more body cam footage of things like this happening, especially really in any situation for that matter. But Bob, I also want to talk with you a little bit about the Colts while I've got you for a few more minutes. Obviously, another disappointing start to their season. They've now lost 11 straight openers, which seems
Mind-boggling.
absolutely insane. The fact that you can lose that many openers in an NFL season in a row. But there were some positives to take from it. Anthony Richardson looked a lot more competent than I think maybe people gave him credit for. But I kind of want to hear your thoughts on just
Well,
week one for the Colts.
yeah, I mean, look, Anthony, three throws of over 50 yards. Nobody does that. Andrew Luck doesn't do that. Peyton Manning doesn't do that. That was incredible. That throw he made to Alec Pierce on the 60-yard touchdown. I covered John Elway through the second half of his career in Denver, and Elway had probably the greatest arm I've ever seen. And I never saw Elway make a throw like that. That was he slipped. He was on his back foot. He was under pressure, and he just casually flicked the wrist, 65 yards in the air, just a perfect pass to Alec Pierce. So I thought he did enough for them to win the game. But when you give up 40 minutes of possession time, you only get 43 offensive plays, which is the third lowest in Colts history since 1998, according to Mike Chappell, who takes the time to look these things up. Uh, when you give up 159 yards to Joe Mixon, is he Walter Payton now? Um, you have no chance of winning. I mean, they were fortunate they were still in it at the end. D'Amico Ryans, to me, gave away 4 points by going for too early. I've never understood why you chase points like that. And then, of course, the screw up at the end of the half with the clock. So they gave the Colts 4 points, and still Indianapolis couldn't do anything with it. The fourth quarter was very disturbing. I mean, they
Yeah.
just ran it right down their throats. They knew it was coming, and they couldn't stop it. And this is a defensive line that got a lot of money in the offseason. They might want to start earning their keep.
So, and they'll play Green Bay in week 2 without Jordan Love. I would say that's kind of a bit of a consolation whenever you're thinking about trying to bounce back in week 2. Do you expect the Colts, even though they'll be on the road, to kind of take advantage of not having to play against Green Bay's starter?
They damn well better. I mean, if Malik Willis throws for 250 yards, you got a serious problem. In fact, the column that I just posted on bobkravitz.com just literally 5 minutes ago was about Gus Bradley, the defensive coordinator, and how he needs to be on the hot seat. It's 2 years in a row they've been 28th in the league in points allowed. They're at the very bottom of the league in almost every statistical category after week 1. They brought these guys back with the idea that continuity and all that stuff, would make them a good, solid defense, and it hasn't happened. And even really good, solid players like Zaire Franklin just did not play well. I thought the defensive line did not play well. When your two safeties, Cross and Blackman, lead the team in tackles by a lot, that's a bad sign. That's a sign that they're getting into the second level.
What do you think should be kind of the goals for the Colts this season? Obviously, you want to take a step forward, and you kind of thought you might take it in week one, being able to avenge that playoff loss last year to the team that you lost to. You unfortunately don't get it done there. So what do you think it looks like going forward if you want to call this season a success for Indianapolis?
Well, they got to make the playoffs. It's really simple, and I think Ballard's job should depend on them making the playoffs. I mean, they haven't won the AFC South since he's been here. They've only won one playoff game. They've only, I think, played 2 playoff games, 2 or 3, I can't remember. And that, after this will be his 8th year. It's time. It's definitely time. 8 years is a lifetime in the NFL, especially with free agency, where you can do like the Houston Texans and completely overhaul your team in the space of 1 year, adding, Anderson and Stroud like they did last year. So to me, they need to make the playoffs. I think they need to win 10 games. So I would say the goal is 10 wins and a playoff berth.
Okay. And Bob, first of all, or last of all, I should say, I appreciate you taking a few minutes to chat with me about a couple things this morning. And what are you doing on your site right now? Musings of an Old Sports Writer, which, by the way, I'm sure I've told you this before. Great name.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, because I do muse and I am old. Well, like I say, I've got a column out there right now about Gus Bradley being on the hot seat, the defensive coordinator. Got some fever stuff coming up. They play the defending 2-time champion, WNBA champion Las Vegas Aces. They play them on Wednesday, so I'll probably have something. Wednesday, that's today, isn't it?
Today is Wednesday, yes.
Oh, yeah. I probably should get my credential. Yeah, I got some stuff. And then, of course, the Colts against Green Bay, I'll have that. So lots of stuff to do.
Good stuff. Again, appreciate you, Bob. We, this is obviously isn't a regular thing that we do bringing you on this new show of mine, but I may reach out to you from time to time if I ever want to pick your brain on a few things. So I appreciate you taking a few minutes with me.
Anytime.